Hey there Wargamers, and welcome back to another Wargames Delivered video. In this video, we're going to be going over painting fur. Let's get started. Alright, so to start this video off, I wanted to give a good example of how to paint fur, and the best one that I found was Greywind, who came in the Game of Thrones starter box here. And the first and largest step for Greywind here is going to be coating the entire model in Gravelord Grey. And the biggest thing to look out for here is just make sure you have one nice even coat over the entire model. You want to avoid pooling in any excess areas, and you just want a nice thin even coat over the entire model. This just helps spread the contrast evenly across the entire model, so you have consistent coverage over the entire model. And as you can kind of tell already, this speed paint kind of acts as a wash in itself as well. So you'll see even better when this dries that it gives you a nice contrast between the depths of shadows and the highlights. This step is very straightforward. If you've ever applied a wash to a model, which I would assume the majority of you guys have, this is the exact same way I would apply the speed paint. And when you start to get around to the face, just be careful and make sure to thin it down a little bit extra around the face. You want the face to be a little bit lighter than the rest of the body. This isn't super important to nail on this step. We're going to be doing some dry brush highlights on the face as well, so if you do make it a little bit darker, don't worry about it too much. We're going to be highlighting anyway, so I just tried to make it as light as possible on the first round just to make it easier on myself later on. With that step finished, as you can see, we have a nice foundational contrast on the mini and a nice start here. So we're going to switch over to Ash Gray, and we're going to do a light dry brush on the legs, the feet, and the underside of the model. So his belly, all the way up to his neck and his chin, and we're going to go ahead and hit the top of his head with this as well. And for this step, I'm using the smallest of Army Painter's dry brushes. This just gives you the most control and makes it the easiest and kind of prevents you from messing up and dry brushing areas you don't really want to. So again, we're looking to just cover the legs here and the belly and the underside of the model completely. And also feel free to hit the model's face and snout with this as well. We're just going for a light contrast here, not like a super heavy contrast, so just take your time with it and build up a light, subtle kind of highlight. And we're actually going to skip close-ups for this video just because the rest of the model is going to be going by pretty quick. And we will see everything in the final shot later on. So we're going to switch over to some dark stone, and we're going to do the exact same technique we used before in the previous step with the controlled dry brush, switching over to the Army Painter's small dry brush again. And we're just going to go up and down the spine of the model here, really just trying to add a little bit of brown tint and just a bit of darkness to the top of the model here. And with this step, we're going to work this in a little bit lighter than we did the Ash Gray, just because we don't want to overpower the model with this color. We just want to add a faint hint of a dark brown color. You can also go in with another kind of lighter brown and do an even lighter dry brush, and that will just add a little bit more flair and pop to the model. I wanted this one to look a little bit more drab, so I just kind of left it with the dark stone here. And just keep at this slowly, and as you can see, you'll start to build up a slight gradient from the top to the bottom of the model. And you can even go over the top of the model, the dark stone area, with a bit of wash if you want to shade this down a bit as well. But moving on, we're going to switch over to the smaller details of the model here, and we're going to do some vampire red for inside his mouth. This will be a very quick step. You just go ahead and get any excess off your brush there and just dot the inside of the mouth until you have the top and the bottom and the middle all covered. You'll probably need about 2 thin coats for this step to really get a nice even coverage on it. But once we've got that finished, we're going to switch over to moldy clothes, and for this we're just going to dot the eyes of the model here. In the novels it says he has kind of light green eyes, so I figured this would be a good color to work from. So we'll just go ahead and dot the eyes very carefully here. And of course, if you make any mistakes, just go back to the ash gray that we used before, the highlights, and clean up with that. Moving on to our last acrylic step, we're going to switch over to Corpse Pale, and we're just going to very gently dot the impressions of the teeth here on the model. He's got some very faint teeth here. They kind of look a little bit different on each side, so you'll kind of have to just play it by ear and kind of go for the areas that you can see. Take your time with this and, you know, go back and forth with this in ash gray until you get a result that you like. And when you're working on smaller areas like this, it's always smart to thin down your paint and thin down the paint on your brush. Wipe off any excess paint on your brush before you start doing any painting on the model. This just helps you avoid any pooling in any areas that you don't want. And for one of our last few steps here, we're going to switch over to some dark tone and just add some shadows to the eyes and the mouth here. I'm using kind of a smaller and more controlled brush here to hit these areas, so you can be a little bit liberal with this on a small brush, but just be very careful that you try to avoid all of the fur areas that we've hit before. And as always, give your wash a good amount of time to dry, and we'll switch over to the last step here. I didn't really know exactly what Grey Wind is standing on here, so I kind of interpreted this as a piece of old dead wood that he's kind of mounted on top of. So I went ahead and took the dark wood speed paint, and we'll just cover this, and this will give us a little bit of variety from the base that we're going to be using for this model as well. And we're using the same technique we did on Grey Wind's fur here, just using a nice even coat across the entirety of the piece of wood here. And the only thing to look out for here is just to be very careful around his feet and his legs here. If you do get any on the model, just be sure to go over it with the ash gray that we used before. And once you've got this step finished, be sure to base Grey Wind in the same way that you've based the rest of your army. And I will show you guys how I did mine in the final shot here. And as always, guys, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. I'd love to hear what you guys would like to see on the channel here. And be sure to check the top link in the description for the giveaway attached to the video. The giveaways always run for about 3 days, so be sure to check that. And as always, guys, thanks again and happy wargaming.